Hey guys, today we are going to be talking about flying with your dog. It's really easy to get overwhelmed when planning to fly with your dog, and so today I'm just going to kind of walk you through my experience, tell you how we prepared, how to keep Willow happy on the flight, and all things included. The first thing you want to do when you're planning on traveling with your dog is to look up the airline's guidelines and pet rules. So you can find those pretty easily just by Googling it. We've flown both Southwest and Delta, and their dog stuff is pretty similar but also different. You have to fill out different forms and have different documentation. So yeah, just go to their website, check out the guidelines, make sure it's okay to bring your dog, and then you can go from there. The second thing you want to do pretty early on is notify the airline that you are bringing a dog, whether it be an emotional support animal or just a dog that you're traveling with. If it's not an emotional support animal, you will have to pay about a $50 fee to bring your dog, and they will have to fit in a carrier that will stay below your feet, below your seat basically. Different airlines have different ways that you notify the airline, but it's pretty much in your reservation area. When you book the ticket, you can let them know that you're bringing a pet or an emotional support animal, and then if you have to pay a fee, you would do so through there. Bringing your dog on a flight with you is going to require some documentation, such as rabies and other shot vaccination records. And then if it's an emotional support animal, you will need a letter from your physician or counselor or therapist. But each airline has a different way each airline has a different way of going about this. Southwest, for example, you just bring your paperwork, the letter, and vaccination records to the front kiosk when you check in on your flight. Delta, on the other hand, has printable PDFs basically that you get printed out and fill those out. You'll need your veterinarian to fill out this sheet for you, and then you'll also need your physician to fill out the sheet for you as well. You can submit those through Delta's portal, or you can bring them with you when you check in. I would recommend doing both. When I went through Delta with Willow, I had submitted all my paperwork online, but when we got there to check in, the woman at the front desk told me that she didn't have any record of me bringing an emotional support animal. So of course that freaked me out, but luckily I had the physical copies of the documentation. You can also have digital copies on your phone. They just need to be able to see it, make sure your dog has all of their shots, is trained to listen to you, and is an emotional support animal. Once you have all of your shot records, your documentation from your vet, and your letter from your physician, and you're all ready for the flight, there are a couple things I would recommend to do in preparation for the flight the day before. One would be to pack some treats to keep your pet busy and some treats that will maybe calm them down. I always bring Willow a little bit of calming CBD, just a very small amount, and I'll put it on a little mini milk bone treat and give that to her, and it usually keeps her pretty calm in the airport. Another thing to do would be to exercise them a lot, either if you have a later flight the day of, or if you have an early flight the day before. Try to get them tired out as much as possible. It will help you if your dog is really energetic in the airport in the long run. So I have a treat I'm gonna show you guys. So this is the CBD oil that I tend to use. It is by CBD MD. They make CBD for humans. This is a calming oil for dogs. And I just do a little drop on one of these little mini milk bones here, and then I'll give it to her, which I'm just gonna give it to her now. Another thing that we like to do sometimes is we have these calming treats from Stella and Chewy. So I would just give her maybe one in the airport. She really likes the taste of them. I'm not gonna give it to her right now, but another good option, Stella and Chewy's calming treats. Another thing I did to prepare for our flight was getting harnesses for Willo. I just wanted her to be able to look a little bit more professional. I mean, she is an emotional support animal, so she is basically working. I usually will just put her in this, she's on my cards, this rough wear harness, just so I have better control over her. And then I have this little ESA tag, which I will link. Another great harness option is from Kurgo. These are cool because you can stick little Velcro patches on here that say like, do not pet, which I like to do also with Willo just because people will distract her when I'm there. Like the airport is so busy, I'm trying to get her to listen to me. And if someone makes even eye contact with her, she'll get distracted and excited and try to go say hi to them. So I would just rather let people know that I don't want her to be pet. I don't want you to say hi to her, touch her. She's working in the airport and we need to get to our gate to the flight as smoothly as possible. Another great thing about this harness though is that you can hook on these little pouches basically. So this would be Willow's bag technically. So she's carrying her own carry-on, which allows me to fit more stuff on the airplane. And then we can also stick these things in there. And so Willo can carry her own luggage pretty much. And then you can still put the do not pet patches over here. And then we also have a water pouch. So obviously you can't go through security with water in this, but you can fill it up once you're in the airport. And then your dog will have water in the airport. You want to make sure that they're staying hydrated on the plane. Don't give them too much water. You don't want them to have a full bladder and have to be holding it, but if they're exuding a lot of energy trying to walk through the airport, get through security, make sure they have a little bit of water. Here is Willo in her little military vest. She looks so cute. Come here. Come. Side's a little weighted down. Good girl. Good girl. That side's too heavy. And that's that. In terms of preparing, another thing that a lot of pet owners do, which I am a little wary of just because Willo loves to eat, is fasting your dog. So if you have an early morning flight, maybe don't feed them dinner if you have, or breakfast obviously. And if you have a later night flight, don't feed them breakfast the day of, just so that they don't have any accidents in the airport. We have honestly had our share of accidents in the airport. Willo gets really stressed out, and so she gets like an upset tummy and always ends up having to go to the bathroom while we're on our way trying to get to the pet relief area. So just make sure you bring poop bags and clean up after your dog if something like that does happen. I know that they hate for that to happen. It's gross, it smells, and don't want to get our privileges as pet owners taken away by having dogs leave their gross stuff around the airport. This brings me to another tip. Try to stay as calm as possible on the day of traveling and getting to the airport and all of that. Your dogs really feed off of your energy, and they can tell when you're nervous or anxious. So, you know, just try to stay happy and light and don't stress your dog out too much because it's stressful traveling, doing something for the first time. They're not used to it. So yeah, it's hard, I know, but try as hard as you can. Take your own CBD or something, and yeah, your dog will benefit from you being calm and collected. So now we are on to the travel day. When you get to the airport, I suggest always getting there early. Just safe as possible. You don't want to be running through the airport with your dog. You don't want to miss your flight. And especially having a dog with you, it'll just relieve so much stress if you plan to get there ahead of time. When you get to the airport, no matter what airline you're flying with, you're going to need to go to the full service check-in line with your pet. So once you are up there in the full service check-in line, have all your documentation that I mentioned earlier prepared, your vet records, your training records, your medical doctor's note, and so on. Have that out, have that ready, as well as your ID, and they'll pull up your reservation, get you checked in, and everything else will be smooth sailing. It might take a little longer to go through the full service line, but it's worth it, and it's also required. So another tip, if you are flying Southwest, I would ask them if you can have priority boarding. I typically do that with Willow. I just don't want her to be stressed out trying to board with all of the people. I want her to be able to listen to me and not have a bunch of crowds around. And then also, she's very small. I don't want her to get stepped on. So those are a few reasons why I ask for priority boarding. It's also super nice when you get to sit in the front of the plane. You have a lot more space if you do get the front row with priority boarding. A lot more space for your dog to lay down, and then you get off and on the plane much quicker, which is awesome. So perks of bringing your dog. Come here, come here. No. All right, now on to probably the most stressful part about traveling for people with and without dogs, is going through security. Security in the US is stressful enough as it is. You have to follow all these rules, take off your shoes, take off your belt, not wear any metal, put your laptop in a bin by itself, and all of these other things. So you have to worry about this as well as getting your dog through security. So honestly, I like to fly Southwest so I can check as many bags as possible and not have to worry about those bags getting through while I'm trying to get through with Willow. I've had a couple different security experiences with Willow. If you can do this, I think this is the best way, is to take off his or her harness and leash and have that go through. And then you can bring a treat, or if your dog listens really well without a treat, great. So you're gonna walk through security with the treat, have your dog sit behind the x-ray scanner, wait for you to go through, and then you can call your dog with the treat or without, whatever, through the security checkpoint or through the security x-ray. So both of you go through separately. It is honestly the easiest way to do it. If your dog listens, that is great. Another way I've done it is I've carried her through with me, which also works if your dog's small and doesn't listen well, or sometimes the TSA people will recommend it. You can carry your dog through. One time I did do this, they have to wipe your fingers down, or your hands down, for suspicious traces of something, I don't even know. But so they wiped my hands down after, and they detected something, and I had to go to the side with Willow, who's anxious and freaking out and not knowing what's going on, because I'm anxious and freaking out. Like, what did they find on my hands? I'm gonna be late, like I need to get through security. And this woman is digging through my entire suitcase. She had to go through all of my stuff, pull everything out, and wipe everything to test and see if there's any of this chemical or powder or whatever that was on my hands in my suitcase. And it was annoying, and I was frustrated, and I was trying to keep Willow with me. And then once she was done throwing all my stuff out of my suitcase, I had to pack it all back together and then be on my way. So it ended up being fine, but if you can go through the metal detector by yourself, that's the better option. You can also, I would have my sister stay with Willow while I walked through. She'd send Willow through, and then she'd go through. So some options, if you can get TSA pre-check, that is also a great thing. You don't have to worry about people waiting on you or long lines. Another thing, we did this in Portland Airport, but they let us go through the fast or employee line or something. I think the person working there was just super nice, and he saw that there was a long line and I had a small dog, and he said that he didn't want Willow to get stepped on in the line. So he let us go through this quick check-in or quick security line, and if you want to ask to do that because you want your dog to listen and all of that, go for it. It was really nice. Once you get through security, it's much more smooth sailing. There will be pet relief areas, so we always stop there on our way to the gate. And then we just hang out, grab a drink, give Willow a little bit of water. I'll usually give her a little bit more CBD just to prepare her for the flight. And yeah, you hang out to board. Once you are boarded and on the plane, the hard part is over. A lot of people worry that their dog's gonna freak out during takeoff or during the flight, and as long as your dog is calm and well behaved, it should be fine. If you have an ESA, he or she can sit on your lap, which is nice and comforting for your dog. I also have tried to bring a million different chewy treats, bully sticks, things like that for Willow to chew on during the flight, and I think she's a little anxious, so she doesn't really care for that stuff during the flight, but it's always worth a try, especially when you're getting up in the higher altitude. Sometimes your ears pop. I can only imagine how our pups' ears feel. So bringing them treats and things to do on the flight is a great idea, at least to see if they will take to them. And yeah, hold them, put them on the floor, whatever. If it's not an ESA, of course it has to stay in the carrier, which kind of sucks, but hey, at least you're getting to bring your pet with you. We've done a 3-hour flight and a 2-hour flight, so Willow's pretty calm. She sleeps the whole time. She sits on my lap the whole time, and it's not as bad as you think. So don't stress out about it. It's super easy, and it's worth it to have your fur baby with you. Another thing I did learn, I flew with Delta to Washington in August during the coronavirus pandemic, and so they had middle seats open, and I was literally letting Willow just sit in the middle seat. Thought it was fine, and the flight attendant told me that I am not allowed to have my dog taking up a whole seat. So she's long, and usually she'll like fit on my lap and then my sister's lap. So since there was a middle seat in between, I was just trying to keep Willow like partially on my lap so that it didn't look like she was taking up a whole seat. It's kind of dumb, but just so you know, your dog is not allowed to have its own seat. Anyways, that's about it. Let me know if you have any other questions. I kind of breezed through it kind of quickly just because we've done it so often. But I will provide resources in the description below, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I will answer them. Thanks, guys. Say bye to Willo. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Holy shit, it's a long one.